It is a very somber day here in Morgantown, especially in the building right behind me, which houses the Monongalia County Sheriff's Department. Today marks the 4th anniversary of the death of Sergeant May, who was killed when a drunk driver struck his cruiser. The theme of Thursday's presidential rally in Morgantown, creating a revolution. And for Senator Bernie Sanders, that revolution and part of his presidential campaign revolves around providing free higher education. During the commemorative walk, residents passed several buildings that survived the devastation in Rollsburg, including this one, the Curiosity Shop, which still bears an historic watermark. That line's about 4 feet high, but we're at an incline here. 30 years ago, floodwaters reached peak heights near 37 feet. Here's how the buddy bench works. When a student sits down on it, that's a sign to onlooking students that this boy or girl is looking for a friend to play with. It's up to onlooking students to greet the student on the bench and ask him or her to join a game. Timberline officials say around 9 a.m. Saturday morning, this ski lift called Thunderstruck malfunctioned with about 200 people on board. Only 9 of them sustained injuries, and because of a quick response by ski patrollers and area first responders, resort officials say everyone was taken to safety quickly. Well, Jack, fans are all around me, and so are the West Virginia Black Bears mascots and pepperoni rolls as we celebrate the championship here at the Monongalia County Ballpark. A great way to end the team's inaugural season.
Nick Farrell was there, joins us live now with more. Nick, what did the union discuss today?
Well, Gretchen, UMWA officials called this rally as they continue efforts to protect pensions for retired workers. In wake of the ongoing bankruptcy of Alpha Natural Resources, union leaders say their members need to come together to protect what they've earned. In wake of this EPA investigation, Volkswagen is suspending the sale of its new diesel models. In Morgantown, I'm Nick Farrell, working for you.
West Virginia's largest university uncovers a major vehicle emissions scandal. Good evening. I'm Dan Thorne. After an apology and plummeting stock prices, Volkswagen now faces billions of dollars in fines. Nick Farrell has more on how WVU research showed that something wasn't right.
When researchers at WVU received funding to test emissions in motor vehicles, they happened to secure 2 Volkswagen models for testing. And those 2 Volkswagen models raised eyebrows with emissions data that far exceeded EPA standards. Testing conducted by the WVU Center for Fuels, Engines, and Emissions showed the 2 Volkswagen diesel engines produced emissions 10 to 35 times higher than what's allowed by the EPA. Researchers at WVU brought this data to the EPA, prompting it to lead an investigation into the matter.
We would never make any kind of conclusion based off of 2 vehicles. I think what we did is we presented what we saw. This led to an independent investigation by the EPA and by the California Air Resources Board, and that's led to what, the announcements that came out on Friday.
EPA testing found that several Volkswagen models included software that reduced emissions only during testing, not general vehicle use. The EPA says its allegations cover roughly 482,000 Volkswagen vehicles produced since 2008. In wake of this EPA investigation, Volkswagen is suspending the sale of its new diesel models. In Morgantown, I'm Nick Farrell, working for you. 30 years after the devastation of the Cheat River flood, residents of Rollsburg joined together Thursday to commemorate the flood's anniversary. They broke ground on a new memorial that will serve as a permanent reminder of both disaster and recovery.
We lived through something like hell, and we found our way out of hell and back to where we are today. And I think we owe it to the community to do that.
During a day-long observance of the flood, residents of the town completed a commemorative walk. They visited buildings damaged by the flood, as well as spaces where houses once stood. It was a tour especially touching to Paul Riggs, who 3 decades ago could only watch as his entire house was washed away.
It took 17 years to make it just about the way we wanted it, and it took about 17 seconds for it to go.
During the commemorative walk, residents passed several buildings that survived the devastation in Rollsburg, including this one, the Curiosity Shop, which still bears an historic watermark. That line's about 4 feet high, but we're at an incline here. 30 years ago, floodwaters reached peak heights near 37 feet.
This went way past all the measures on the scale. 170,000 cubic feet per second was twice the volume of the highest amount of water ever measured on Cheat River and in Cheat River Valley. Double it.
Those statistics made national headlines. Experts said it was an anomaly that wouldn't occur again for a century. And with an average population age of 65, many speculated Rollsburg would never be the same. But since November 5th, 1985, many residents say the town's story has changed from one of tragedy to recovery.
It's never going to be like it was, but we have come a long way. You know, of course, we got a long way yet to go.
Reporting for 12 News in Rollsburg, I'm Nick Farrell.
Sergeant Michael Todd May was killed in Pennsylvania while on duty. Nick Farrell is live in Morgantown tonight to tell us how the department is remembering May today. Nick.
Well, good evening, Dan. It is a very somber day here in Morgantown, especially in the building right behind me, which houses the Monongalia County Sheriff's Department. Today marks the 4th anniversary of the death of Sergeant May, who was killed when a drunk driver struck his cruiser north of the Pennsylvania border. Now, today, the Sheriff's Department held a private ceremony to commemorate May's life, and county officials, emergency officials, also observed a moment of silence on the scanners today at 1:24 in honor of his still vacant unit number at the Sheriff's Department here in Monongalia County. Today, I spoke with Chief Deputy Perry Palmer, who was May's field training officer. He says he'll remember May as an excellent role model.
He took his job seriously. However, he had a lighter side to him, where he would joke with the guys. A lot of our younger guys looked up to Todd, would come and ask him questions on the job, and Todd was right there for him. He enjoyed life.
Now, in the years since Sergeant May's death, a number of excellent things have come from the Sheriff's Department, including raising over $100,000 for a memorial scholarship to Fairmont State University. The Hartman-run bridge in Monongalia County was also renamed in May's memory. Reporting for Tonight Live, I'm Nick Farrell in Monongalia County. Dan. The colors of our nation are about to flood High Street in Morgantown in an hour at 6 o'clock when the Veterans Day Parade begins here on High Street. It'll cap off a day-long celebration of veterans that included a wreath-laying ceremony just a few steps away at the Monongalia County Veterans Memorial.
For generations, the men and women of America's armed forces have demonstrated their willingness to put country before self. Patriots who serve for the greater good, who don't seek glory or recognition or personal gain. And today we honor them. Today is their day.
That's Jeremy Alio, who served as the MC for the annual Monongalia County Veterans Day program. Alio believes Veterans Day is a time for Americans everywhere to come together and recognize all veterans.
Not just those that served in times of war, but also those that serve in time of peace, and just show their appreciation and really take time out of their day to say thanks.
The program included a wreath-laying ceremony at the county's Veterans Memorial. Members of the community who served in the armed forces or lost a loved one in battle placed wreaths and paid their respects. It's a gesture that one Monongalia County commissioner hopes to see more of even after Veterans Day.
I believe we need to do more of this. I think we take a lot of things for granted. My father, and that's why I'm here, is I'm representing him, was in the Red Bull Division, and the stories that he told me in South Africa, and then many of my friends who lost their lives with the Vietnam War. It's still hard to forget, and I don't want anyone ever to forget. The reason why we have the day off, the reason why you can go out with your family, is because of those who sacrificed their lives, those who came back from the war, and those who are still supporting the war at this time.